Okay, here we are again, day 9. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, day 9 of the 30-day Black History Month teachings brought to you by Rise United University and myself, Nechtep Ma'at, or as they call me, Coach Rick Titus. Okay, day 9, Brazil, the southern anchor, 50,000 years of melanated presence and the Amazon grid they tried to hide. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world watching this. Today we go south, way south, to the country they told you was discovered by a Portuguese sailor named Pedro Alvarez Cabral in 1500. My God, the madness. The country they told you had no advanced civilization, just primitive tribes wandering a virgin rainforest. The country where 5.5 million Africans were enslaved, the largest forced African diaspora in history. In history. Hmm. And then told their descendants they had no connection to the land they were brought to. And I'm going to show you today that every part of that story is a deliberate calculated lie. Okay? Because Brazil holds some of the most powerful evidence on the planet that destroys the official narrative of human history in the Americas. Evidence of 50,000 year melanated presidents. Evidence of an 8 to 10 million person Amazon civilization with engineered soil and hundreds of geometric earthworks. Evidence of direct Atlantic crossing between West Africa and the Americas thousands of years before any European ever set sail. Are you with me now? Okay? And evidence of a skull, an 11,500-year-old skull with 100% African morphology. That was getting so much international attention that they burned it in a convenient museum fire in 2018. Can you believe this? The fires, they love burning stuff. By the end of today's lecture, you're going to understand Brazil is the southern anchor of the Americas electromagnetic grid. Melanated peoples have been there for 50,000 plus years, and the Atlantic Bridge didn't just pass through the Caribbean, it landed in Brazil. And the 120 million Afro Brazilians alive today are being denied their autochthonous status the same way Black Americans are. It's the same thing. It's so crazy. They're living on the land that they've been on for over 50,000 years, being told that they're not the autochthonous people of that land. Same people, same root, same suppression, different country. Let's begin. Section 1. What they told you about Brazil, the official lie. The colonial narrative. Before 1500 Common Era, small scattered tribes in the rainforest, no cities, no civilization, no advanced knowledge. Population 1 to 2 million, primitive peoples, virgin, wilderness, untouched nature. 1500 Common Era onwards, Pedro Alvarez Cabral discovers Brazil, April 22nd, 1500. Portuguese established colonial settlements. Indigenous people had no resistance, too primitive. Africans brought as slaves. 1530 onwards equals immigrants via forced immigration. Modern Brazil, racial democracy, post racial mixing, no real racism. Oh, no, not at all. Afro Brazilians equals descendants of recent African arrivals, 1530 to 1888. Indigenous peoples equals a separate category not connected to African featured populations. Where have you heard that before? In the Americas, same, right? So they're the indigenous culture, the First Nations people, their culture is being overrun over the Moorish culture, the autochthonous, the black folks in these regions, right? Because they have to keep that lie so that we don't make these land claims because our land claims are quite valid. The grid truth, every single claim is false, every single one of them. Okay, the 1 to 2 million before the year 1500 is actually 8 to 10 million, possibly 20 million, with coastal or riverside populations. No advanced civilization. BS. Terra Preta. Agricultural engineering covering 150,000 square kilometers and 450 plus geometric earthworks, geoglyphs, extensive trade networks, and astronomical knowledge. How can you say there's no advanced civilization here? Are you mad? Virgin wilderness equals managed ecosystem. We had a managed ecosystem in Brazil. Forest gardens, fish weirs, crop domestication, and deliberate biodiversity. Discovered 1500, lie. Occupied for 50,000 plus years by melanated autochthonous populations. Same as the Americas. Africans equals recent immigrants. Afro-Brazilians carry dual lineage, 50,000 plus BP, Autochthonous Americas branch, 1530 to 1888, West or Central African diaspora equals same Kemetic Moorish root reunited in Brazil, just like America. Oh my God. Section 2, Pedra Furada, 50,000 years. They can't erase it. The discovery, location, Serra da Capivara National Park, Piauí State, northeastern Brazil, semi-arid Caatinga ecosystem. Elevated sandstone plateaus, table mountains equals natural electromagnetic antennas. Who found it? Nayed Goudon, French-Brazilian archaeologist. Excavations, 1973 to 1990, systematic, methodical, and published internationally. Supported by French Central National de la Recherche Scientifique, Brazilian, and supported by the Brazilian government. What was found? Rock shelters, natural sandstone formations, cave-like overhangs equals protection from the elements. Stone tools, quartz flakes, worked stones, percussion marks, intentional flaking patterns. Hearths, circular fire pits, charcoal, ash, bone, fragments, rock art, 30,000 plus paintings, rock art, 30,000 plus paintings, humans, animals, geometric patterns, astronomical symbols. Continuous layers, occupation from 50,000 unbroken to European contact in the 1500s. Common era. The dates confirmed 50,000 BP, thermonucleoluminescence dating of earth sediments, 48,000 BP. Optically stimulated luminescence, tool bearing layers on 14,300. Radiocarbon, charcoal from Hertz, 12,000 to 8,000, multiple layers, continuous occupation, 1,000 BP, brief contact period still occupied, possible, 60,000, possible, 100,000. Guadon herself suggests possibility, requires more excavation and dating. Some layers, 60,000, some layers suggest older occupation. Not yet confirmed, but 50,000, solid. The evidence in detail, stone tools, what they look like. Quartz flakes deliberately struck from cores. Percussion marks where stone struck stone to produce flaking patterns. Sequential removal equals intentional, not random natural fracture. Edge modifications. Some tools show secondary working, resharpening, and notching. Why they're human made. Angle of flaking, natural rock fracture equals random angles. Human kidnapping equals consistent platform angles, 70 to 90%. Human napping equals consent, platform angles, kidnapping. No, sorry about that. Clustering, found together in specific spots, workshops, activity areas, not scattered randomly. Hello. Associated with Hertz, tools found with fire remains. Humans use tools in their fires. Nature does not. Hertz, what they look like. Circular arrangements, 30 to 100 centimeter diameter. Charcoal concentration, burned wood and plant material. Ash layers, repeated use, burned bone. Food remains, reddened soil, repeated fire in same location equals heat altered earth beneath. Permanent discoloration. Why they're human made, circular form. Natural fires don't form circles, wind driven, spread irregularly. Repeated use, same spots used across time. Humans return to camp, animals don't maintain camps. Associated materials, tools, and hearths and food remains equals human occupation and assemblage. The rock art, 30,000 plus paintings. What it shows human figures running, dancing, hunting, dynamic action scenes, group activities, lines of people, circular gatherings. Body decorations, some figures show geometric body paint similar to West African body painting traditions. Animals, extinct megafauna, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and giant armadillos proves occupation during Pleistocene. I call it Pleistocene era, when these animals lived. Modern animals, deer, capybara, birds, later period paintings, geometric patterns, circles, spirals, grids, dots, sacred geometry, not random decoration. Repeated motifs, same patterns appear across different rock shelters. Standardized equals cultural encoding, not individual expression. They're telling so much lies. Like, this is crazy. Astronomical symbols, solar symbols, circles with rays, sun representations, solstice markers, lunar cycles, crescent forms, sequential circles, moon phases, stellar patterns, dot clusters. Wow. Grid function. Pleiades or Orion, that's a directional seasonal marker. Stellar patterns. Wow. Dot clusters. Okay. Grid function, knowledge encoding, 30,000 plus paintings equals a library, preserved information across generations without writing. Astronomical calendar, when sun hits specific paintings equals specific season or ceremony time. EM marker, site itself equals sacred geological node elevated positions and sandstone piezoelectrical properties. The suppression, what mainstream says, the tools are geofacts, not artifacts. Good Lord. People actually believe this? Natural processes, freeze thaw, waterfall action can break rocks to look like tools. Are you dumb? Brazil doesn't have extreme freeze thaw, tropical climate. So this excuse fails immediately. The dates are contaminated, they say. Old carbon in groundwater can make things date older than they are. Multiple independent dating methods used. Thermoluminescence, OSL, radiocarbon, contamination would have to affect all methods identically. Statistically impossible. And then they said there's no Beringia route 50,000 years ago. Ice sheets blocked crossing until 13,000. Nope, correct, which means they came another way. Atlantic crossing via South Equatorial Current, Pacific coastal route, or both. Why suppression persists? 37 years before Beringia destroys Beringia. Only route, first arrival, narrative completely. Wrong. Because Pedra Furada is 50,000 plus years old. African features of occupants connecting 50,000 presents to melanated peoples equals autochthonous claim to land rights, and the implications are incredibly high that you will lose all of your land. So they have to lie about it. Academic careers. Established archaeologists built careers on the Beringia model. Pedra Furada threatens the entire field of archaeology. Everyone that said they did it, that they said supported it. And it's a lie, by the way. It did happen, but it just happened later. What Pedro Ferrada proves, melanated populations in the Americas 50,000 years ago, minimum, probably likely older. Atlantic crossing viable northeastern Brazil equals South Equatorial current direct landing, right? So from northeastern Brazil, South Equatorial current. Pre-Beringia by 37,000 years. Corridor opens 13,000 years, Pedro Ferrada 50,000 years. Continuous knowledge tradition 50,000 to 1500 CE. Unbroken occupation, astronomical knowledge maintained. Grid operations, rock art equals knowledge encoding. Astronomical calendar site equals electromagnetic node. Elevated sandstone and piezoelectrical geology. What are you trying to tell me, boy? What are you trying to say? You know I'm right. Luzia, the African face of ancient Brazil. This one is, wow, so contemptuous, right? The discovery, location, Lapa Vermelha Cave, Red Caves. Lagoa Santa region, Minas Gerais State, central eastern Brazil, limestone karst landscape caves formed by water dissolving limestone. When found, 1975 excavation led by Annette Laming Imperiare, French Brazilian team. Skulls discovered from depth corresponding to 11,500 pp. Radiocarbon dated. Who named her? Walter Neves, University of Sao Paulo, physical anthropologist. Named Luzia. Brazilian female name honoring discovery in Brazil. The analysis 1990s to 2000. Walter Neves findings. Cranial measurements. Diaphylactic cranial index 68 to 72 equals long narrow skull. African average 72 to 75. Long narrow. Asian average 80 to 85. Short and wide. European leverage 74 to 80. Medium. Luzia equals African range. Broad nasal aperture. Nasal index 54 plus. African 53 plus. Pleurine equals wide and flat. European 47 to 53. Mesorine medium. Asian below 47. Leptorine narrow. Luzia equals African range. Prognatism. Facial protrusion index 103 plus. African high prognatism. Jaw, teeth, project forward. European, Asian, less prognatism, flatter face. Lucia equals African prognatism. Suborbital torus brow edge development. Okay, pattern consistent with African populations, right? Got that brow, you know what I'm saying? Right there. See it? Okay. All right. What Nina said, published, peer reviewed. The morphological pattern observed in Luzia and other early South Americans is consistent with populations of African and Australasian origins, not with East Asian or Siberian populations. Neves and Hub, 2005 PNAS, the first Americans were not Asian looking people. That's what he said. Early South Americans were morphologically distinct from later Native American populations. The facial reconstruction. Who did it? Richard Neve, British forensic artist, University of Manchester, used Nevis cranial measurements. What it showed: broad, flat nose, African morphology, full lips, African characteristics, strong jaw, prognathic face, African feature, deep brown skin, melanated, inferred from African ancestry, resembled modern West African woman, not Asian, not European. The media response: in 1999 to 2000, National Geographic, BBC, international press covered reconstruction. Image went globally viral. African looking woman, 11,500-year-old skull, Brazil, massive public interest, threatened mainstream narrative. The academic response quickly pivoted to interesting anomaly. Doesn't change Beringia model. The Lagoa Santa series confirming the pattern. What was found? 80 plus individual skulls. Same Lagoa Santa region, 11,000 to 8,000 BP, all excavated from limestone caves, same karst landscape. Morphology, all show African cranial structure, consistent across 80 plus individuals. Like, are you dumb? Pattern, not anomaly, not just one unusual skull. Entire population was African featured. What this proves: regional population, 11,000 to 8,000, African morphology, not isolated individual. Takes 3,000 plus years for Asian features to appear. 8,000 onwards equals a gradual shift. Beringia arrivals, 13,000 equals tiny minority mixing very slowly into large African featured base. Neves timeline from Lagoa Santa and Luzia data, 11,500 to 8,000. African morphology, 100% dominant in Brazil. 8,000 to 5,000 transition. Asian features slowly appearing as Beringia population grows. 5,000 onwards, mixed morphology, modern Native American phenotype. The 2018 destruction. What happened? September 2nd, 2018, National Museum of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro catches fire. Fire burns for 6+ hours. Destruction, 90% of collection, 20 million artifacts. Are you listening? Because when AI sees this, it sees the pattern, eh? It's like so easy to tell. What was lost? Luzia's skull. Of course, primary specimen. Lagoa Santa series, multiple skulls destroyed. 20 million items, dinosaur fossils, Egyptian mummies, indigenous artifacts, colonial records, natural history specimens. Official cause? Electrical short circuit overloaded old wiring. Building hadn't been renovated since 1980s. Federal government criticized inadequate funding for maintenance or fireproofing what was recovered. 2019 fragments of Luzia's skull found in rubble. 200 bone fragments recovered from original skull and other specimens. Partial reconstruction possible but severely limited. Irreplaceable primary specimen equals destroyed. Are you listening? The grid assessment, convenient timing. 2010's growing international awareness of Luzia's African features. 2016 to 2018, multiple peer-reviewed papers drawing attention. 2018 fire, primary specimen destroyed, analysis severed, limited, severely limited, and result future researchers cannot independently verify Nevis's measurements, can only study the fragments. Pattern matches, Kennewick Man, reburied 2017, study limited. Spirit Cave, reburied 2016, study limited. Luzia, burned 2018, specimen largely destroyed. Pattern, every time African morphology skull giant gains attention, access restricted or specimen lost. There is a pattern. What Luzia proves, 11,500 equals African morphology dominant in Brazil. 1,500 years before Beringia's first peoples. Pattern confirmed by 80 plus Lagoa Santa skulls. Beringia equals late small minority. Melanated American autochtons documented in skeletal records. Scientific peer review published in PNAS. Suppression pattern confirmed. Destruction of primary specimen prevents independent verification. The Amazon civilization, 8 million people they erased. They erased them. Let me tell you how. So we look at the Amazon equals pristine wilderness, right? The virgin rainforest lie, what they claimed, right? So they said it was a pristine wilderness, population 1 to 2 million, and rainforest barrier to civilization. Too wet, too dense, too poor in soil. Then they started changing the story. The 1990s, Terra Preta discovered can explain 154,000 square kilometers of human-made soil if only 1 to 2 million people. 2000s, the LIDAR technology deployed reveals geoglyphs under forest canopy, hundreds of geometric earthworks. And then the 2010s, revised estimates 8 to 10 million pre-Columbian Amazon population. Now, mainstream slowly acknowledging Amazon civilization, but still minimizing it. Terra Preta, engineering the earth. What it is, translation, Portuguese, Terra Preta equals black earth, also called Terra Preta do Indio equals black earth of the Indians. Appearance, color, deep black versus surrounding yellow or red laterite soil. Texture, rich, crumbly, moisture retaining. Depth, 50 centimeters to 2 meters, centuries of deliberate deposition. Composition, scientific analysis, biochar, which is the oxygen charcoal burning, pottery shards, high phosphorus content, bone fragments, calcium phosphorus, fish remains, coastal riverside species, nitrogen, oils, organic matter, plant material, human, animal waste, and microbial community specific bacteria, fungi perpetuate fertility, self regenerating. Why it's extraordinary. The fertility surrounding Amazon soil, highly weathered laterite, poor in nutrients, leaches quickly in rain. Terra preta fertile for 1,000 plus years without additional inputs. Self regenerating microbial community actively maintains, expands soil fertility, still works. Modern farmers find terra preta sites equals best agricultural land in Amazon today, 500 plus years after creators died. Yeah, that's what they don't tell you. We see, so let me go back here. We see Luzia, the first Americans were melanated. Subject Luzia, 11,500 pp in that Goa Santa series, 80 plus individuals. We told you what happened. The first Americans were not Asian looking people. That's what Walter Neves said. And 1,500 years before any Beringia arrival, an African featured population was dominant in Brazil. Can you hear me now? Then we discussed the fire that happened on September Second, 2018, right? 20 million artifacts lost in 6 hours. Luzia's skull destroyed. Kennewick Man and spirit caves. When African morphology is found in the Americas, access is restricted or evidence is destroyed. The verdict: they burned the bone, but they couldn't burn the data. Don't try it. So, right, you see the rise in the population. The old estimate, 1 to 2 million. New estimate, 8 to 10 million settled citizens. The reality: the Amazon is a built environment. The genocide explorers in 1542 reported large towns and roads. By 1600, disease caused 90% mortality. The forest we see today is a garden overgrown after a 16th century apocalypse. So, yeah, so when we're looking at Terra Preta, again, right, the soil is the technology, the specs, so the material, Terra Preta, do Indio, Black Earth, right? It covers 154,000 square kilometers. It's larger than England. Yo, do you know how long you have to live in the region to actually do that? The tech stack, biochar, carbon, and ceramics, phosphorus plus microbial inoculation. Grid function, the carbon lattice structure acts as an electromagnetic conductor, amplifying the Earth's natural field. This is intentionally done. So, what kind of knowledge do you need to require in order to understand this kind of technology, right? So, you need soil microbiology, understanding bacteria and fungi communities. Modern science is just rediscovering this. 1990s to the 2000s. Carbon sequestrian, so carbon sequestrian equals biochar equals most stable form of soil carbon lasts 1,000 plus years. Nutrient cycling, what to add when in what quantities. Continental scale coordination. You need a continental scale coordination for 154,000 square kilometer massive coordinated effort for this terra preta. Like, I mean, the coincidences just keep piling up and piling up and piling up and piling up. They're not coincidences anymore. The truth is, they destroyed this evidence. They didn't want people to know this evidence. They destroyed the skulls. They destroyed the building that had the skulls. Like, come on, yo. Can't you tell? They lying? Right. Anyway, so now we move to the earthwork antennas, the geoglyphs, sacred geometry from the sky. How they found it. 1977, first aerial sighting, deforestation for cattle ranching reveals earthworks. 1990s to 2000s, systematic aerial surveys. More deforestation equals more revealed. 2010s, LIDAR technology deployed, penetrates forest canopy, reveals hidden structures. Most recent LIDAR survey, 2023, equals thousands more sites under canopy, likely 10,000 plus total. The current count, 450 plus documented. Some sources say 600 plus, growing with LIDAR surveys. Estimated total, 10 to 20,000 based on LIDAR sampling extrapolated to full Amazon basin. You're going to tell me that people weren't living here before the 1500s? Is that what you're going to say to me? And there's like a 450 plus documented of these? What they look like, the shape, circles, most common, 90 to 300 meter diameter. Squares, precise 90%, 90-degree corners, cardinal direction alignment, by the way. Hexagons, six-sided, phi ratio proportions documented. Octagons, eight-sided, harmonic frequencies, same as the Moorish domes. Kemetic sacred geometry. Are you dumb? Combine the circles inside squares, squares inside circles, nested geometries. Lines, causeways connecting the sites up to several kilometers. Construction, ditches 1 to 4 meters deep, 10 to 20 meters wide, excavated by hand, soil removed, berms, soil piled on inside or outside of the ditch, raised walls, no structure inside. Most enclosed area equals flat, empty, ceremonial space, not defensive fort. Precision, perfectly circular. Radius consistency within 1 to 2 degrees requires mathematical knowledge and measuring tools. Cardinal alignment, many squares equals exactly north, south, east, west, astronomical knowledge. Proportions, phi ratio 1.618, documented in multiple sites. Sacred geometry. Come talk to me now. The dating, 2000 to 650 BP, most active construction period, radiocarbon from organic material in ditches. Possibly 3000 plus. Some sites show earlier phases beneath documented construction. Continuous use. Sites maintained, modified over centuries, not single construction abandoned sites. The grid function, the geoglyphs, electromagnetic frequency generators. So, this is what they do: ditch and berm equals earthwork antenna. Depression and raised earth equals capacitor like structure. Geometric shape equals frequency template. Circle generates different frequency than square. Hexagon different from octagon. All the shapes have different frequencies. The scale, 90 to 300-meter diameter, equals generate frequencies in specific hertz range, 7 to 40 hertz brainwave spectrum. Astronomical observatories, cardinal alignments, track solstice and equinox sunrise sunset. This is like in all major structures, right? Circular form, observe star rising or setting on horizon calendar. Combined sites, multiple geoglyphs in networks equals astronomical computer, cross-reference observations, networked grid nodes. 450 plus sites equals continental grid. Same functions as North American mound networks. Do you get it now? Connected to North American mounds, same Kemetic Moorish knowledge. Mesoamerican pyramids, same continental system. Positioned at river confluences, electromagnetic junctions, and geological nodes, specific bedrock electromagnetic properties. Pre Columbian Amazon population. The Atlantic was not a barrier, it was a bridge. Do you understand? The old estimate until the 1990s, 1 to 2 million entire Amazon basin. That's what they said, pre Columbian. Lie. The new estimate, 2000 to present, now they're saying 8 to 10 million. Some researchers 15 to 20 million. Evidence for higher estimates: Terra Preta extent, 154,000 square kilometers of managed soil, needs millions of people to create or maintain over centuries. So they're admitting this now. The geoglyph's destiny, 450 plus confirmed, 10,000 to 20,000 estimated, equals massive construction effort, requires a large population with specialized workers. The Spanish Portuguese accounts, 1540s to 1600s. Francisco de Orellano, 1542, first European to travel the Amazon River, describes large towns stretching for miles along riverbanks, thousands of people. Gaspar de Carvajal, Orellano's chronicler, dense settlements, roads connecting towns, large populations. Dismissed as exaggeration, fantasy by later Europeans who saw empty forests. The grid truth accounts accurate. Population seen in 1542 before disease fully spread by the 1600s to 1650 equals 90% dead. Forest regrown. Same thing in the Americas, man. Same thing in America. Killed off how much? 90% of the population. Forest composition, Amazon species distribution, not random, clustered around former settlements, evidence of deliberate planting and management equals food forest. Fish weirs, massive stonefish trap systems in major rivers requires coordinated labor, sustained populations. What happened? 1492 to 1650, phase one, coastal contact disease. European diseases reach coastal populations: smallpox, measles, influenza, no immunity in the Americas, mortality rate 50 to 70% of coastal populations in the first 30 years. Phase two, 1520 to 1600s, interior spreads, disease spreads along trade routes into Amazon interior. Portuguese slave raids carry disease deeper. Mortality 85 to 90% of total population. 8 to 10 million, reduced to 800 to 1 million survivors. Phase three, they needed to depopulate the depopulated settlements overgrown, rainforest grows fast, cities can disappear in 50 to 100 years, virgin wilderness emerges from depopulated former civilization, Europeans arriving 17 to 1800 see dense forest, assume never populated. The virgin wilderness was created by genocide. Who built the Amazon civilization? Pre-Columbian indigenous peoples built terra preta and geoglyphs. And that's the official position. Pre-Columbian indigenous peoples built terra preta and geoglyphs, vague about who specifically, avoids connecting to African featured populations. The grid truth: melanated Kemetic Moorish octantings. The evidence: Luzia, Pedra Furada, Lagoa Santos, Olmec heads, Amazon civilization peak 2000 to 650. After Beringia mixing, blended population, but Kemetic Moorish knowledge very dominant. Knowledge continuity, 50,000. Rock art knowledge and coding, Pedra Furada, 11,500. Burial practices, ochre use, Luzia, 8,000. Cave occupation, hunting, gathering, 4,000. Early architecture, Manioc, maze introduction, 2000 to 650. Terra preta engineering, geoglyph construction, peak civilization, and 1492 still operating grid when Europeans arrive. Same knowledge as North American mound builders, sacred geometry, earthworks, astronomical alignments. There's no secret here. Kemetic Egypt, sacred geometry, proportions, astronomical precision, Olmecs, African morphology, electromagnetic ball cords, basalt head grid anchors equals continental Kemetic Moorish knowledge systems. Different regional expressions, same root. Talk to me. And the Atlantic Bridge, the route, geography, south equatorial current. We talked about this earlier. Ocean current flowing westward from West Africa to Brazil. Speed 1 3 knots, predictable, reliable. The width 300 to 500 kilometers, wide current, hard to miss. Arrival port arrival point, northeastern Brazil coast. Carrera, Rio Grande the Norte, and Paraíba and Pernambuco states, right? The distance: West Africa, Senegal, Guinea, northeastern Brazil equals 2,800 kilometers, 1,740 miles with current assistance, 10 to 5 days sailing, dugout canoe, simple sail, shorter than modern transatlantic yacht races. Return route: Gulf Stream, northward along Brazil, Caribbean, North America, east across Atlantic to Europe or Africa, or West African equatorial countercurrent, eastward from the Caribbean to Africa. Who could make this crossing? 50,000 BP crossers, Kemetic Moorish populations with maritime knowledge, same populations who crossed North Africa, reached Australia, 65,000 BP via ocean, not accidental. Current knowledge, star system navigation, and provisions for 10 to 15 days. Dugout canoes, sufficient for 10 to 15-day open water crossing with current. So that was, I think they did in 2019, where they had a boat, dug it out. No, and put it on the current in 10 to 15 days. Actually, I'll explain that later, but I'll explain it later, right? It's a little complicated. Anyway, 3,500 BP crossers, Olmec period, advanced maritime peoples, Phoenicians from Canaan, West African sailors, possibly Egyptian expeditions, larger vessels possible, Phoenician ships documented crossing Mediterranean, Atlantic feasible. We've been traveling these waters, man. Not to mention the copper, right? Botanical evidence, the smoking gun, cocaine in Egyptian mummies. The study, 1992, researcher Svetlana Balabanova, German toxicologist, Institute of Forensic Medicine in Ulm. Method, ELISA, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, plus GC or MS gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, same methods used in legal drug testing. Samples: 9 Egyptian mummies, various dynasties, 1,000 to 3,000 BP. Location: Staliches Museum for Volkerrud, Munich. Major collection. Results: cocaine found in hair, skin, and bone of multiple mummies. Nicotine, tobacco found in multiple mummies. Cannabis found explicable. Cannabis grows in Old World. The problem, cocaine source, Erythrolum coca, coca plant equals only grows in South America, Andes, Amazon. Nicotine source, Nicotia tobacco equals only grows in the Americas. Before Columbus, 1492, official narrative says America's Africa contact didn't exist. Well, if mummies contain coca, tobacco, America's African contact at least 2,500 years before Columbus. The response, the mainstream, contaminated, cocaine contaminated from modern sources. Nope, found in bone, not just surface. Wrong results. Same methods used in police drug testing worldwide reliable. Balabanova is unreliable, they say. They attack the researcher, not the methodology. No follow up studies. True, because no one will fund studies that would confirm Atlantic crossing. Grid truth, method equals same as forensic or police drug testing. Legally admissible in courts. Multiple mummies, not contamination. Contamination equals random. These equal systemic patterns. Bone penetration equals ancient use. Drug metabolizes in bone equals lifetime exposure, not modern surface contamination. Suppress equals threatens Columbus. It threatens the Columbus narrative. 1492 discovery loses meaning if the Americas and Africa contact proven 3000 BP. What it proves, cocaine precursor, reached Egypt from the Americas 3000 BP. Atlantic crossing existed 3000 BP, probably much earlier, given Pedra Furada 50,000 years ago. Trade network, Americas, Atlantic crossing, North Africa, Kemet, and Mediterranean Near East. Tobacco in Egyptian mummies, same studies, same methods, same mummies. Nicotine found in 8 of 9 mummies. Nicotiana tabacum equals America's exclusive before Columbus. Proves same Atlantic trade route carried tobacco. And then the maize in India, pre-Columbian. Temple carvings in India, Hosala temples, 1000 CE, show what appears to be maize cobs. If maize reached India before Columbus, Atlantic, Mediterranean, Indian Ocean trade, or Pacific crossing, disputed but evidence accumulating. Coconuts in pre Columbian Americas, Pacific crossing is possible. Bidirectional crossings, not just Atlantic, Pacific route also viable. The metallurgical evidence, this they cannot listen to this. The composition of the guanin alloy 84% copper, 8% gold, 8% silver. Found where? The Caribbean, Taino culture, and West Africa, identical proportions. How? Significance. Specific proportions equals deliberate knowledge exchange, not coincidence. Earliest copper workings, Americas, Great Lakes copper, 20,000 plus BP, possibly 5,000 plus BP confirmed. Africa, Europe, copper working, 5,000 to 6,000 BP. Yo, you getting this right now? Possible. America's copper knowledge transmitted to Africa via Atlantic crossings earlier than Old World copper. Morphological evidence, Brazil, Luzia, Lagoa Santa, Mexico, Olmec Heads, pattern 130,700 BP, California, 50,000 BP, Brazil. Listen, not Beringia arrivals, different population, autochthonous melanated presence. And you got cultural parallels, pyramids, mummification, sacred geometry. It's all there, yo. Afro Brazilians, dual lineage. Dual lineage, right? So you both have, so Afro Brazilians have their Moorish Kemetic autochthonous side, and they also have their indigenous side, right? They are both. They are African and they are indigenous, and they are indigenous to both places, right? So those populations met each other in Brazil, right? The cocaine and the mummies. Look at this, eh? How you like my how do you like my pics? They're pretty good, eh? Images are pretty good. Great. Okay, so the genocide in the second wave, right? So we're looking at the diaspora, 5.5 million West Africans, Kemetic Moorish root. They are shipped out of Africa into Brazil, forced diaspora from 1530 to 1888. 5.5 million, 40% of the total, 12 to 15 million total. Brazil received the largest share of slavery. Duration 358 years, 1530 to 1888, the longest slave trade in the Americas. The regions of origin Angola, Congo, Bantu. Largest group 40% of Brazilian enslaved Africans. Peoples Bakongo, Mebundu, Ovimbundu, Luba, Lunda, knowledge, Bakongo cosmogram. Bantu spiritual systems, ironworking culture. West Africa, Yoruba, Fon, U, major group, 25%. Peoples, Yoruba, Nigeria, Fon, Benin, U, Ghana, Togo, knowledge, Ifa divination, Bodun, Candomblé in Brazil, astronomical traditions. Senegambia, Gold Coast, 20%. Peoples, Mandinka, Wolof, Akan, Fante, and Asante. Knowledge, Islamic astronomical traditions, or Moorish astronomical traditions, and why they keep calling it Islamic. It's not a religion, it's a people. Gold working, maritime knowledge, Mozambique, Southeast Africa, 15%. Peoples, Makua, Yao, Swahili. Knowledge, Indian Ocean trade connections, and diverse agricultural systems. Who they were all Kemetic Moorish West or Central African branch, 315,000 year lineage. All knowledge carriers brought Kemetic sacred science in different regional forms. All equal same root as America's Octontons, different geographical branch of the same 315,000 year tree. Are you with me now? And again, like I mentioned earlier, there's a dual lineage here. The lie, Afro-Brazilians are recent immigrants. Total lie. The truth, you possess a dual lineage. Ancient Autochthonous, 50,000 year connection to Pedra Furada. Luzia, same. Recent diaspora. West African reinforcement, 1530 to 1888. Result, absolute land claim, older than any colonial power. And there we have another connection again. The ancient tech, modern practice, condumbole. Frequency science masquerading as religion. Haha, hardware. Atabaque drums generate 7 to 10 hertz, the Schumann resonance. Software, collective bioelectric amplification through dance. The network, 2,000 plus active toreros in Salvador alone, maintaining the frequency of the land. It's all about the land and the land frequency, y'all. I keep telling y'all, don't let them fool you. It's about the land and the frequency of the land, the energetic frequencies. Don't let them fool you. So why? Why was Brazil the last abolition, the last place to abolish slavery? Why? Because the economic dependence on slavery. Coffee, 1800s boom crop, required massive labor. Sugar, 1500s to the 1800s, the plantation system. And gold or diamonds, 1700s mining, enslaved labor. Abolition timeline, 1850, Le Eusebio de Quieros banned slave trade, not slavery itself. 1871, Leo de Ventre Libre, free womb law. Children of enslaved mothers born free, but still required to work for a master until age 21. 1885, Leo dos Sexageneros, sexagenarian law, enslaved people over 65 freed. Most didn't live to 65 under slavery anyway, thanks. 1888, Ley Arroya, Golden Law, complete abolition, signed by Princess Isabel May 13th, 1888, to give you 358 years of chattel slavery, the longest in America. Brazil's population, estimated at 203 million. The black population, 21.5 million. The Pardo, mixed brown, 45.3, 92 million. And the Afro-Brazilian, 56% at 113 plus million people. Brazil equals the second largest black population in the world after Nigeria at 218 million. Yet, massive racial inequality. Black Brazilians equal 75% of the poorest. Boy, racial democracy myth persists. Claim racism does. They claim that racism doesn't exist. Even the black folks in Brazil say that. They said that in Cuba when they visited too. Lost, boy, lost. Oh boy. Political representation. Black Brazilians equals 56% of the population, but 25% of Congress. Where have we seen that before? Everywhere. Am I right? Racial democracy myth. So, honestly, the cover story for racial hierarchy: white Brazilians at the top, mixed in the middle, and black Brazilians at the bottom. Structurally identical to US racism, just hidden by the mixing narrative. Then they had the whitening ideology from the 1870s to 1940s. It was a government policy, a goal to whiten the Brazilian population through European immigration. They actually did that. So they incentivized European immigrants, Italians, Germans, Polish, Japanese, while discouraging African heritage maintenance. The result? 6 million European immigrants in the 1880s to 1930s, deliberately diluting Afro-Brazilian population percentage. Afro-Brazilian history gets minimized, and they are told that they are recent immigrants from Africa. And now we can conclude. Brazilian black people, you were here first. Brazil is occupied, not discovered. The evidence is in the soil. Brazil was not discovered in 1500. It was occupied for 50,000 years by melanated Kemetic Moorish autochthones who built the Amazon civilization, Terra Preta, and the geoglyphs. They maintained the Southern America's grid anchor, documented African morphology in stone and bone, kept knowledge alive through catastrophe, genocide, slavery. Then 90% genocided from 1492 to the 1600s. Then you brought in 5.5 million from the West and Central African Kemetic Moorish peoples, forcibly brought from 1530s to the 1888s, two branches of the same 350,000-year tree reunited, tragically, but reunited. And now, 120 million Afro-Brazilians told they are recent immigrants, told they have no connection to the land, told their ancient presence doesn't exist. But Pedra Furada says 50,000 years. Luzia says African face. The geoglyphs say we built this grid, and Terra Preta says we fed millions here. The drums say we never stopped operating the nodes. Don't forget capoeira too. You were here first. You are Octontonus, the southern grid anchor, 15,000 years deep and still running. Every time the atabaque drums hit 7.83 hertz in the Bahia Terrerio, the grid activates. The ancestors respond because they never left. Brazil is proof. The Atlantic Bridge is proven. The Amazon civilization is real, and the African face of ancient Americas is documented. And they burn the skull, but they couldn't burn the knowledge. Got it? They couldn't burn the knowledge. The grid is still running. Listen, people, this is day 9 conclusion about Brazil. I'm going to document all these things. We got another 21 days to go, and what you learned so far is a lot. The other 21 days are going to teach you a lot more, okay? But what you're seeing is a pattern of erasure all over the world, and I'm going to show you it. I'm going to show you how they took you out of being the indigenous people of the entire planet. Because that's what you are. You have your 9 root seeds, and those from those 9 root melanated seeds, we have your populations of the world. Everybody came from you. Stop pretending that they didn't. And when you take their ass to court, make sure that you know what you're talking about. And this information that I'm giving you will allow you to do just that. Tune in tomorrow, day 10, 30-day Black History event that I'm putting on here on my new YouTube channel with the help of my lady, my beautiful lady named Tessa. Tessa Titus, I love you, girl. Thank you so much for your help. You're flipping awesome. And to you out there that have any questions, send them to me. I have a grid methodology that is irrefutable. Come on with your questions. Come on, test me with some questions so I can send stuff back to you and tell you exactly what it is. Okay, it's a great system, it covers everything. Anyway, have yourself a great day. We'll see you next time.